Shit, do bugs sleep? I don't know. I think certain ones do.
Somewhere within a few feet of you, there is an insect. On a windowsill, inside a wall, out in the grass beyond the glass. And tonight, when the light goes out, it is going to do something you have never once pictured it doing. It is going to fall asleep. It will find a spot. It will fold its legs beneath its body. Its antennae, which never stop moving, will go still and droop. Its muscles will go slack. And it will disconnect from the world so completely that you could walk right up to it and it wouldn't notice. That mosquito you crushed against your arm last summer, there's a real chance it came for your blood that night only because it hadn't slept the night before. And the one that left you alone? Maybe it was simply catching up on rest. This sounds like a small, strange question with an obvious answer. It isn't. It's one of the deepest questions in all of biology, and the closer scientists have looked, the stranger it has gotten. Because buried in this story is a single experiment where an animal was kept awake until it died. And the reason it died is not the reason you would ever guess. It isn't the brain. And the exact same thing is quietly happening inside you every time you choose to stay up too late. Hold on to that. We are coming back to it, and it is going to change the way you feel about every all-nighter you have ever pulled. Start with what almost everyone believes. An insect is a machine, a bundle of reflexes. It doesn't sleep, it just switches off, like a phone going dark when the battery dies, and flickers back on at dawn. There is nothing in there resting, because there is nothing in there to rest. For 100 years, science believed exactly this. Insects were too small, too simple, too alien. Sleep was for us, for mammals, for birds, for creatures with real brains. And then, in the year 2000, that idea quietly fell apart. Two separate research teams, working completely independently, cracked it open in the very same year. One was led by Paul Shaw and Giulio Tononi at the Neurosciences Institute in San Diego, publishing in the journal Science. The other was Joan Hendrick's team at the University of Pennsylvania. Their subject was the common fruitfly, the same speck that circles the fruit bowl in your kitchen. A fly's brain is far too small to wire up for brainwaves, the way we measure human sleep. So Hendrick's team did something almost absurdly simple. They filmed the flies, for hours, and they sat there and watched them sleep. But watching isn't proof. A rock sits still too. So they set 3 hard tests, 3 hurdles that separate real sleep from an insect just sitting there. The fly had to go completely still for a real stretch of time. It had to get harder to wake, so that a nudge which would spook an alert fly barely registered. And the crucial one, if they robbed it of sleep, it had to pay that debt back afterward, sleeping longer than normal to make up the loss. Fail any single one of those, and this was nothing. Just a bug holding still. The fly failed none of them. It cleared all 3. And then it got personal. Give a fly caffeine, and it stays up longer. Exactly like you. Give it an antihistamine, the drowsy kind in your allergy pills, and it drops off early, exactly like you. Keep a young fly awake and it crashes harder the next day, the same way you do. A fruit fly sleeps somewhere between 8 and 12 hours a night. This was not a machine powering down. This was a body that needed sleep, ran up a debt when it went without, and paid that debt back. The same deal your own body signed the day you were born. And when a fly gets sick, a single gene flips on. Scientists named it Nemuri, Japanese for sleep, and it knocks the fly out cold for up to 20 hours a day until it heals. You have felt that exact switch. It's why a fever flattens you into bed and won't let you get up. But holding still and healing is one thing, because one of these creatures does something in the dark that is far harder to explain, something that, until recently, we thought only we could do. Keep that in mind, too. We'll get there, and here is where you should stop feeling safe, because this rabbit hole runs far deeper than the fly. If you want to know how ancient this thing running inside you really is, you have to leave insects behind for a moment and meet a worm. Its name is C. elegans, and it is one of the most studied animals on Earth. It has 959 cells in its entire body. It has 302 neurons, not 302 billion, 302, a number you could almost count on your fingers. It has no brain in any sense you would recognize. And in 2008, researchers proved that it sleeps. Not only that, with just 302 neurons, it still needs that sleep to lock a memory into place, which told scientists something they were not ready for. It is not the size of the mind that demands sleep. Something far more basic does. Then it goes further still. A jellyfish has no brain at all, no central anything, just a loose net of nerves. In 2017, scientists at Caltech watched an upside-down jellyfish called Cassiopeia. At night, its pulsing slowed by a third. It grew sluggish, slow to react. And when they rudely kept it awake all night with little pulses of water, it spent the whole next day groggy, trying to catch up. A brainless animal, sleeping. And just this year, researchers found the very same thing in sea anemones, and finally worked out why it might matter. While these creatures are awake, damage quietly builds up inside their nerve cells. Sleep is when that damage gets repaired. That pushes the origin of sleep back more than 600 million years, before the branch that led to worms, to insects, to fish, to you had even split off. Sit with what that means. Sleep is older than the brain, and nothing alive gets to skip it. So come back to the insects, because the question is no longer whether they sleep. It's how much they are really doing while they're under, and the answer is stranger than you think. Take the honeybee. Bees, it turns out, have a secret language, the famous waggle dance, where a returning forager dances a coded map across the honeycomb, telling her sisters the exact direction and distance to a patch of flowers. In 2010, Barrett Klein and his team, publishing in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, did something cruel and clever. They kept a group of bees awake all night. Then they watched them dance. And the sleep-deprived bees danced wrong. Their maps came out sloppy. The direction they pointed to was off, imprecise, unreliable, sending their sisters to the wrong place. Think about what that means. When a human doesn't sleep, one of the first things to fall apart is our speech. We ramble, we slur, we stop making sense. A sleep-starved bee does the exact same thing in the only language it has. It starts to talk nonsense. And now, the thing I told you to keep in mind, the thing that looks unmistakably like us. Bees may dream. In 2015, Hanna Zwaka and Randolph Menzel at the Free University of Berlin taught bees a specific smell. Then waited until the bees dropped into deep sleep and blew that same smell over them again. The next day, those bees remembered the lesson better. And the trick only worked during deep sleep. Not while they were awake, not with some random new smell. This is almost exactly what happens inside a sleeping human brain. During deep sleep, your brain replays the day, sorting what matters, filing it away. A bee, it seems, does the very same thing. And in fruit flies, neuroscientists have now found two distinct kinds of sleep, a quiet phase and an active phase, where the tiny brain lights up as if it were wide awake. In us, that active phase is called REM. It's where dreams live. And the parallel runs even into old age. Young bees sleep in short, scattered bursts, exactly like a human baby. The old foragers, worn down by a lifetime of work, sink into one long, deep sleep at night, exactly like a tired adult. Now, picture it. On a windy evening, 3 bees cling to a single blade of grass, gripping it with their jaws so they don't blow away, huddled together, fast asleep. A bumblebee crawls into a flower as the petals fold shut around it, and spends the whole night tucked inside like a tiny bed. People find sleeping bees all the time and think they've stumbled on a corpse. They give it a nudge, and it stirs, shakes itself off, and flies away. It was only sleeping. And sleep doesn't just keep these creatures alive, it quietly decides what they do. Remember the mosquito from the very start. In 2022, researchers at the University of Cincinnati kept mosquitoes awake, then offered them a warm human host, a blood meal, the single thing a mosquito lives for. More than 3/4 of the well-rested ones went straight for it. Of the sleep-deprived mosquitoes, fewer than 1/4 could even be bothered. They gave up the meal they need to make their eggs just to catch up on sleep. So the next time one whines past your ear in the dark and somehow never bites, consider that it might be leaving you alone for the very same reason you'd skip breakfast after a sleepless night. It is simply too tired. But here is the part I told you we would come back to, the part where an animal does not wake up. Because sleep is not just something these creatures do, it is something they cannot survive without. And in 2020, scientists at Harvard Medical School finally figured out why. They took fruit flies and kept them awake, completely, relentlessly. And the flies began to die. By day 20, every last one was dead. The flies that were allowed to sleep lived twice as long. Total sleeplessness cut their lives clean in half. So the team went hunting for the damage, fully expecting to find it in the brain. It wasn't there. The brains of the dying flies looked perfectly fine. The damage was in the gut. Deadly molecules, reactive oxygen species, the same corrosive stuff behind rust and aging, were flooding the intestines and tearing cells apart. And then the twist. When they fed the exhausted flies antioxidants to mop those molecules up, the flies stopped dying. They lived a full, normal life on almost no sleep at all. It wasn't the lack of sleep that killed them directly, it was the poison that built up when they didn't sleep. And the same buildup happens in mice. And, as the lead researcher put it, so many of us are chronically sleep-deprived, we know it's bad, and we do it anyway. The exact machinery that killed those flies is running in your gut right now every single time you tell yourself you'll sleep when you're dead. And that should genuinely bother you, because of what we have built. We took the one signal every living thing has obeyed for 600 million years. Darkness means sleep, and we drowned it in light. In 2024, researchers at UC San Diego kept honeybees under constant artificial light. Their internal clocks came apart. They slept less. They got worse at the very dance that keeps the whole hive alive. And the scientists pointed out the parallel without flinching. This is what screens do to us. The blue glow of a phone at midnight tells your ancient brain the sun is still up, so it holds back the sleep you need. Artificial light now blankets a quarter of the surface of the Earth. We are doing to the bees in a lab exactly what we have already done to ourselves in every bedroom on the planet. Now, one honest catch, because this is the moment a lot of videos quietly lie to you. We cannot crawl inside a bee and know what it feels. Insects have no eyelids to close, and their brains are far too small for the scanners we point at ourselves. Everything we call sleep in them, we read backward, from behavior, from posture, from the debt they pay. The dreaming is the softest claim of all, a strong hint, not a proven fact. Even the scientists studying it admit that asking whether a fly dreams might be the wrong question entirely, because we can never actually ask the fly. A bee sitting still on a flower isn't always asleep. Sometimes it's just cold, just resting, just waiting out the wind. But strip all of that caution away, and this much is rock solid. The fly sleeps, the bee sleeps, the mosquito sleeps, the brainless jellyfish sleeps, the 302 neuron worm sleeps. Every single branch of animal life we have ever checked, from the simplest nerve net to the whale to the human being, does this same impossible, defenseless thing. It goes blind. It goes still. It vanishes from the world for hours, night after night, betting everything it has that nothing eats it before the sun comes back. We told ourselves that sleep was a human luxury, a soft animal comfort, something our big, clever brains had earned. It was never ours. It is older than brains, older than eyes, older than almost everything you are. It was already here, running quietly in creatures with no minds at all, hundreds of millions of years before the first thought was ever thought. So the next time something small lands on your skin and your hand shoots up out of pure habit, stop, just for a second. That tiny life has spent part of every single day of its existence doing the exact thing you are about to go do tonight. It gets tired, it runs out of sleep. It has to pay the debt back, or it dies. The same as you. Sleep is older than the brain, and nothing alive escapes it,